Welcome to another edition of Bet with Bobano. It is Wednesday, February 14th. Ian Cameron and my usual Wednesday guest is back. He couldn't make it last week, but he's back in the saddle here this week. Brad Francis. Brad, how are you? And how was the Super Bowl? How are things?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Yeah, we're just chatting about it. Like I said, I was on the Niners, so it was kind of tough, but great game, great game. Patty Mahomes. I don't know what I'm doing bet against that guy. God damn it, he's too good. He's too good. So it's cool for the Chiefs, man. Should be interested to see if they can make a three-peat next year. But now it's time for some basketball, and I'm ready to kind of lock in on that. And before baseball season, and then next thing you know, it'll be football season once again. So can't complain. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes, football's over. It's hard to believe because it honestly feels like just a month ago I was getting ready for college football and NFL, and now all of a sudden both are finished
Yep.
for another season. But that means it's hoops and hockey pretty much for the next few months. Although baseball, don't look now, will be starting in about a month and a half as well. So looking forward to that. I will say this though about football. Football's not totally done for me until September. I will be on the UFL bandwagon in March. When the United Football League starts. You guys know that I was involved actively with XFL, USFL, the spring football leagues the last few years, did pretty well with them as well. So I'm looking forward to UFL, the United Football League. I'll be involved with that. And then, of course, CFL gets underway in June, the Canadian Football League. So pretty much football year round for me. This is the biggest part of the year without football now until when UFL starts. So plenty of football still for me, at least before NFL and college get here. But the focus of this show, as you guys know, as always on Wednesday, is NBA. It is a huge, and I mean huge NBA card tonight. This is the second to last day before the All-Star break, although the majority of teams play their final game before the break tonight. But it is a loaded NBA slate with 13 games on tap for this Wednesday night. So let's get into it. As always, every game on the board. We break it all down. We will begin with Atlanta and Charlotte. We've got the Atlanta Hawks, 6.5-point road favorites, 238 being the total here in this game. Atlanta, of course, only 11-15, 9-6, 11-15 straight up, 9-16 against the spread road record. They're coming off a home loss to Chicago, 136-126. It was really shocking, actually, in that game because of the fact that they're a little bit banged up with Chicago. They were missing their best defender, Alex Caruso, but still unable to beat Chicago at home in that game, lose by 10. Charlotte on the flip side, don't look now, but this Hornets team that I spent really a good month or so betting against, hand over fist, night in and night out, they're suddenly starting to pick things up, at least from an ATS standpoint. 4-1 against the number, their last 5 games. And when you look at this last 5-game stretch here, Brad, for Charlotte, 6-point loss to the Lakers, 6-point loss to Toronto. They did have the blowout loss in a tough spot against Milwaukee, but they returned home. And since then, they've won outright as underdogs and back-to-back against Memphis and Indiana. So we're seeing some signs here from Charlotte. I think they're live here. I think there's way too many points for me to trust Atlanta on the road. I like what we're seeing a little bit now from Charlotte the last few games. So for me, it's Hornets plus the points. Brad, what do you like here?
Yeah, but I'm going to take the Hornets plus the points as well. I feel like the last few shows that we were on, we always shit on the Hornets. Who would have thought we're going to both take them in this spot? But covering it for their last 5, who would have thought that? I had the Pacers in that last game, minus the 10 points. I knew it was a lot of points. I didn't love the pick, lost that. So, yeah, I'm not going to bet this game, but I'm also not going to fade the Hornets until, I see things change. It looks like they are picking them things up. And when it comes to the Hawks, I mean, sometimes they're a good parlay piece just on the money line or things like that. But when it comes to covering the spread, I still can't trust them. So I'm going to take the Hornets too here as well. But like I said, I know this Hornets team. I know what they're capable of, and they're not. I know they're on a nice little streak here, but still not going to see any of my money, honestly. But if there was a lean, I'm taking the Hornets.
Yeah, I'm going to actually bet it. It's actually a bet for me. Just a lean for Brad. Yep, just a lean for Brad. But I'm on Charlotte here. And look, I know LaMelo Ball's still out, but look, 4 of the last 5, they've been competitive without him. And there's still some injuries, too. And what bothers me for Atlanta is they already without Capella, and the guy that's really stepped up for them in his absence on the front court, that starting center spot, is Onyeka Okongwu, and he's out now, too, for Atlanta. He's actually been someone I've been betting some props with because his point props have been way too low the last few games. in the absence of Capella. Now he's out, so you're basically down to your third, center on the depth chart, Bruno Fernando, here tonight. Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey, and you've got Young and Murray in, but still missing a little bit of tough tonight, Atlanta, with the front court thin. So this could be a good Nick Richards game. He could really feast for Charlotte here in the low post tonight in this one. All right, next up, we've got New York and Orlando. The Magic now 3.5, 4-point home favorites, 212.5 the total here in this game. I mentioned on the show that I'm on Tuesdays, Thursdays for NBA that I thought Orlando was in a decent spot last night, but they were just outclassed by the Oklahoma City Thunder, 127-113, another masterpiece, a Rembrandt by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from right here in the Hammer. He continues to just have a great season. Back-to-back now for this Magic team. Knicks with the rest advantage and coming off their third straight loss, a heartbreaker against Houston, and kind of got screwed in that game, quite honestly, the New York Knicks, because if you look at the way that game transpired, there was a bit of a dubious foul call right at the end. I think it was a horrible call. And look, I was on Houston in that game. So that tells you I call it right down the middle. I mean, that benefited me as being on the Rockets the other night, but that was a horrible call that went against New York. Awful. I benefited, but it's still an awful call. I got to admit that. I can't look at it through biased eyes just because I had a Rockets ticket. The Knicks did get a little bit of a screw job in that game against Houston. So they'll be looking to bounce back. I don't know if I want the problem right now, Brad, with New York is they're so beaten up to shit right now with the injuries. Still without Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle and OG Anunoby. And now we don't know if Isaiah Hartenstein, the starting center, will be in. He's questionable still with that Achilles injury. And now one of the guys that's really picked it up for them and one of the few offensive options they've had because of so many of these injuries, he may not even go tonight. It's not delivery. It's DiVincenzo. Don DiVincenzo here for New York. He's been great lately with all these injuries that have been going on for New York, and he may not play tonight. So you're talking about a real short-handed Knicks team, even though I think the spot does favor them. So this is ultimately going to be a pass for me. What do you think here, Brad?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a tough game to pick because, yeah, of course, the Magic on the back end of a back-to-back. And that game last night, I know they wanted to win that. Shaq in his jersey retired, first nationally televised home game since 2013. Like, that was a massive game for them. Took a bad loss, and now they had to go right back into it and play a New York team. But when you look at New York, I mean, they failed to cover in their last 5 games. Those injuries are definitely hurting them. Jalen Brunson can't do this on their own. I'm still honestly going to lean towards the Knicks, though. I think that game, the Magic really circled that game. That was a massive game for them. And, I think they may come out a little flat. And now you got a Knicks team who may come in a little bit more motivated after that bullshit call. So I don't love it here because the Magic have been such a good cover team at home. But I am going to lead taking the Knicks with the points here. Not going to bet this one either, though, to be honest.
All right. I do have a bet on this next game. Miami and Philadelphia. We got the 76ers 3-point home favorites, 225.5 the total here in this matchup. The Sixers, of course, still trying to cope as best they can without Joel Embiid, who's still out indefinitely, and Tobias Harris and DeAnthony Melton. And not to mention Covington and Batum, who are good bench pieces for this team that they're without, but very much a depleted group. And I think one of the things you've noticed here with Philadelphia, at least I have the last few games, is that they are a much more offensive-laden lineups, especially in the starting 5 right now. Maxey is a good scorer, not the greatest on-ball defender. Buddy Hield doesn't play much defense, but he can shoot the ball from the perimeter. Oubre, same thing. There's not a lot of great defenders right now on the court for the 76ers. So when I look at this team without Embiid, I see a huge decline in their defensive ability. I see a quicker pace, and just in general and conceptually, a team that I want to bet overs with right now. And I think tonight could be one of those spots to look over the total in this game. I know Miami's gone under in 3 straight. They played San Antonio. They played Boston. They played Milwaukee, who really dug in it was last night, and Milwaukee just had very little offensively. It was a horrible night for them at that end of the court, and it was a back-to-back for Milwaukee. Miami kind of, took advantage of that in the 123-97 victory. They've covered 4 straight here, Miami as well. I lean Miami too, but Butler out, Richardson out, Rozier, all going to miss this game once again for the Miami Heat. Yet, they were able to get the job done last night. I'm just not ready to lay points with Philly. Credit to them for that impressive, and I mean impressive, win at Cleveland the other night. 11.5 point dogs win outright. I'm still not fully trustworthy of what I see from this group, especially defensively right now without Joel Embiid. So I do lean Miami. Don't love it because they're on a back-to-back. They played last night, but I do lean Miami. What I like more, though, is that total. I think we'll see points. I think it goes over. What do you think here, Brad?
Yeah, I'm leaning Miami too. Yeah, same with me. I mean, Philly, they are coming off back-to-back wins, back-to-back covers, but like I said, or like you said, I can't take this team right now. I think they're trying to find their identity without Embiid. And, even though the Heat are on the back end of a back-to-back, them getting points, I'll take my chances with that. I think this is a game either team could win. So I'll take my chances with having points in my back pocket here.
Yeah, it would be the same thing for me from a side perspective, either Heat or nothing for me. I think Jaime Jaquez is, again, worth a look. Hero and Jaquez have to be big catalysts right now for the Miami Heat, although they are going to get Duncan Robinson, it looks like, in the starting five tonight. So there could be a bump in production for him tonight. You always look for those situations where someone's going to get more court time, and you might end up getting that with D-Rob here tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers as a result, of some of these injuries. All right, we got Indiana and Toronto. The Pacers, 3.5-point road favorites, 245 the total here in this one. The Raptors just got absolutely torched by Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs the other night. I mean, he was just a triple-double. He did whatever he wanted. 122, 199 loss. They lost by 23. They get blown out by Cleveland at home the game before that. So it's been a rough go these last couple games for this Raptors team. And then on the flip side, Indiana's coming off a surprising loss. And I liked Charlotte in that game getting the points, but didn't necessarily think Charlotte was going to win outright. But sure enough, as 10-point dogs, they do. And they beat Indiana 111-102 the other night. So you got Indiana off a bad loss. They'll be looking to respond. I could only back the Indiana Pacers in this game. The one thing that I'm just in the back of my mind concerned about is Darko ripped the Raptors after that loss against San Antonio, saying it was no intensity, our focus was terrible. Everybody's got to look themselves in the mirror and be a whole hell of a lot better. So I would expect the Raptors to bring it tonight, not to mention the Siakam angle as well. He's going back to Toronto, face the Raptors in Toronto for the first time since the trade. Raptors probably want to beat him. He probably wants to have a good game against them. So that should be an interesting angle. But even if Toronto's pissed about the San Antonio game and they heed the coach's, criticism and they bring it tonight and are better, Indiana's still the better team. So it's still a lean Pacers for me. I don't know if I bet it, but it's a lean to the Pacers. What I do like in this game is whatever you can find on Siakam, but especially over points, I would say take it. He'll want to have a big game tonight going back to Toronto for the first time. What do you think here, Brad?
Yep, I like it. I mean, yeah, this definitely could be a motivation spot for Toronto, but I mean, Indiana's coming off a loss against the damn Hornets, so they're probably pretty pissed off too. And yeah, I mean, how's the injury report looking on your side? It looks like Tyrese is questionable, Miles Turner questionable. Is that correct? Is my stuff updated here?
Yeah, there's a lot of concerns. Yeah, there's no doubt. And not to mention the Raptors, too. RJ Barrett's a game time decision here tonight with a personal matter for the Raptors. But yeah, the main two for the Pacers are Halliburton and Turner. Hallie's questionable with a left hamstring strain injury. They're managing that. It's right before the break. Illness for Miles Turner. He's questionable. Neither one's been ruled out, but neither one's confirmed in either. So you're going to want to wait on that closer to tip-off. And this reminds me to tell all our viewers and listeners as well, be careful tonight. This is the last game before the break. You could see some weird-ass shit going down right before the game where there's suddenly, oh, this guy's not playing all of a sudden. I wasn't expecting that. Welcome to the last game before the All-Star break, folks. You're going to see the old whammy and the old rug pulled out from under you, I'm sure, in a couple of injury situations tonight. So be careful. I would say from a unit standpoint, just be careful. Tread a little lighter tonight, I would say.
Yeah. This injury report's definitely alarming, to say the least. So I would wait until to bet this one. But, I mean, the lean is the Pacers. The lean's definitely the Pacers. Like you said, they are the better team. I think they avenged that loss to the Hornets. And, yeah, Siakam should be ready to go in this one. So if Tyrese plays, Halliburton, I say you take him. If not, stay away.
Yeah, that could be the best way to play it for sure is, if it's full go for Indiana tonight, it probably becomes a really decent bet on them. Like I say, Darko Rajakovic can be mad all he wants about the Raptors not playing well against San Antonio. The fact remains, even if they do bring a much better effort, Indiana's bringing an effort too. I'm sure they're not happy losing to Charlotte the other night, and Indiana's just a better team. It would still only be Pacers for me if I'm betting this game from a side perspective. All right, Brooklyn and Boston. Celtics, 13.5-point home favorites, 228.5 the total. I just squeaked one out with Brooklyn last night. Took the +9, just got there, a late basket in the final minute. But I didn't love this Boston spot. They haven't been good laying big numbers lately. The Boston's. It's the last game before the break. They've got a good enough record. Do they really need to go out there tonight and whip the Nets by 14 plus? I'm tempted to come right back on Brooklyn here in this. Like the Celtics just haven't been very good as larger double-digit favorites lately, or bigger favorites in general. They have not been very good. Looks like tonight Al Horford's out. Jaylen Brown is also a game-time decision for the Celtics due to a right shoulder issue. Other than Ben Simmons, everyone's good to go for Brooklyn. Relatively healthy. Dennis Schroeder, the new point guard who they got from Toronto, Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, all expected to play tonight for this Nets team. So, I cashed a lucky one with Brooklyn. They weren't the right side last night. Boston was up, pretty handily most of that game. They got through the back door. I don't think it'll be nearly as lucky tonight cashing with Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn can stay a little more comfortably inside this number. It's got all the warnings of a pre-All-Star break sleepwalk for the Boston Celtics, and a team they just beat last night. You're going to have that intensity and that focus to beat them again by 14 or more. I'm not so sure about that. Brad, what do you think?
Yeah. These games are always weird. These back-to-back games where you play the same team, and we get these periodically every season. And typically, my strategy is whatever team lost, I take the other team to cover. I don't know if that strategy works. I don't know if there's any stats behind that, but just my mindset, I usually go into it like that. So I don't know if you have a strategy with that when it comes to these back-to-back games. But I'm going to lean Brooklyn as well. I think they come out ready to go. I mean, they just saw this team last night. They know what to expect. So 13 points is a ridiculous amount. So, or you got it at 13.5, which is even better. So I think, they could keep it within 10. I don't think they win this game, but I mean, plus 610 on the money line is actually not too bad too. Who knows? Because I could see this being a sleepwalk spot for the Celtics. So I'll take my chances with the plus 13.
Yeah, I would certainly lean that way. Lean to the over a little bit as well. Chicago and Cleveland. We've got the Cavs 9-point home favorites, 222 the total. Smash spot for me for Cleveland. Yep. I really believe that. Not only do they lose surprisingly to Philadelphia, shorthanded, depleted, and beadless Philadelphia 76ers team the other night, but Donovan Mitchell with some pointed remarks too, saying we just didn't have that effort and wasn't very thrilled with the way he or his team played in that game against a depleted Philadelphia squad. You'd expect a response. Now, again, with these teams that have had a great first half of the season like Cleveland, still a little skeptical sometimes what you're going to get from a team the final game before the break. But in the case of Cleveland, coming off that loss to Philadelphia, the final game before the break, Donovan Mitchell kind of calling out the team after that loss the other night, you would expect a response here. And they are clearly the better of these two teams as well, even though Chicago has won 3 of the last 4, including a nice home win against Minnesota, which was a very impressive win on this road trip. They beat Memphis 118-110. They lost a close one to Orlando in overtime, and they beat Atlanta outright as 5-point dogs. So, Chicago is playing better here in the short term. But you look back towards some of the most recent times they've played a pretty good team on the road. You have to go back, a decent amount. Orlando was a pretty good road team they played on the road, but they ended up not getting the job done straight up or ATS. They failed to win or cover at LA, losing to the Lakers by 9. I just think Chicago's walking into a spot here where they're facing a better team than them and a team that's got a point to prove and not very happy with what they did the other night against Philadelphia. So for me, this is Cavaliers laying the points. I'm not on a ton of favorites tonight, but this is one of them here with Cleveland. What do you think here, Brad?
Yep, I'm on Cleveland as well. I mean, before that Sixers game, it seemed like Cleveland was never going to lose a damn game. I mean, they're beating good teams, bad teams on the road, at home. So, yeah, you know me, I've been on this Cleveland team all season. And, Chicago, they are playing better basketball, but a road spot, I don't know. I can see this one getting out of hand pretty quickly. Even though the Bulls have been playing better, we've seen them get blown out in these types of spots all season. So I'll take my chances with Cleveland laying the big number. It is a lot of points though. Don't get me wrong. So I'm like I said, I'm probably not gonna bet this one, but I'm definitely leaning Cleveland here.
Yeah. And I lean the over too. I will be on the over as well if Caruso's out again. That's their best defender by far. And that's going to make life miserable for Chicago without Alex Caruso having to defend that backcourt, that spectacular backcourt of Garland and Donovan Mitchell. That is not going to be fun for the Chicago Bulls if they have to go head-to-head with this team without probably one of their best. He is one of their best defenders, Alex Caruso. So keep an eye on that injury. I'll be jumping on the over probably as well. If he's a no-go tonight in this game. All right, Houston, Memphis. We've got the Rockets, 2.5-point road favorites, 218.5 the total in this game. I don't trust Houston on the road. I've said that a lot. 5-20 straight up on the road. That's straight up. And here's a team laying 2.5 on the road, a 5-win road team this year. 5 wins in 25 road games, and here they are laying points on the road. So that's the obstacle you've got to overcome if you're going to take Houston in this game. Memphis, meanwhile, look, they continue to lose. They've lost 9 in a row, but they do have a winning point spread record during that span. Their last home game against New Orleans, 9.5-point dogs. They lost by 9. The only concern I would have is, are we getting enough points here with Memphis in this game? Van Vliet's still out for Houston. And, of course, for Memphis, they're still very much beaten up. It's Jaren Jackson and a bunch of bench players, I guess you could say right now, because Marcus Smart, LaRavia, Clark, Bain, Williams, and, of course, John Morant still out for this team. Yet the effort's been amazing, from this team. For as depleted and as beaten up and as shorthanded as the Grizzlies have been, they have still given one hell of an effort in a majority of their games of late. So it's a lean to Memphis. I'm not running to bet it, though. Brad, what do you think here, Rockets, Grizzlies?
Yeah, when it comes to this spread, I mean, yeah, the Rockets have been terrible on the road, but damn, it's tough to take this Grizzlies team right now, just looking at that roster. So for me, I'm going to take the under here. I think it's the safest play. You got the Rockets, who have been elite on defense. They don't play at a fast pace. And then you got a Memphis team who, I mean, when you look at this lineup, it's like, who's really going to light the scoreboard up here? Not a single guy, really. So I think an under is a safe play. I think it's going to be one of the more uglier. This is going to look like a college basketball game, honestly. I was going to say this may look like the Detroit Mercy game, but it's not going to be that bad. That may be like high school basketball game. And we're going to talk about that later, because that's honestly the game I'm excited about the most. With that being said, we're taking the under in this one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's by the way, I was watching something. I saw something on YouTube, another college basketball show, and they said, and they're right. It's Valentine's Day. If you somehow convinced your girlfriend to attend an IUPUI Detroit college basketball game tonight, you better propose to her and make it forever, because you're never going to find a better one than that. 100%. Exactly. There is no question. There is no question about that. If date night is fucking IUPUI and Detroit Mercy, 2 of the worst teams in college football going head to head, that's a keeper. You better put the damn ring on her finger pronto and not let her get away. All right, next up, we've got Washington and New Orleans. Pelicans, 13-point home favorites. The total 234 here in this game. Malinsky special, that betting angle that we have talked about, named after the late great Dave Malinsky, who we lost too soon, a legend in the sports betting industry, one of the smartest people you'll ever hear. That angle, of course, the team playing at home after a 4-game or longer road trip, and we do have that here with New Orleans returning home off a 4-game road trip. That's a negative spot here, in my opinion. And don't look now. Here come these Washington Wizards that have been actively very competitive lately. Took Dallas down to the wire in their last game. And you look at just their results the last 5 or 6 games, they have been hanging tough in a lot of these games, playing some better defense. Yeah, they're still losing 7 in a row. They've lost straight up. But Cleveland, they lose by 8. They cover the number. At Boston against the Celtics, 18-point dogs. They lose by 4. They lose to Philadelphia, but only by 6. At Dallas, I was on the Wizards that night, 12-point dogs. They lose by 8. In fact, that game, Washington had a lead for the majority of that game as well. So I like Washington here getting the 13 in this game. The New Orleans angle, the angle in play with the team off the long road trip again. And by the way, that angle is, I believe, 34-22 against the spread this year, 61%. So betting against the team returning home following a 4-game or longer road trip, it's been very strong this year in the NBA, and that angle says fade New Orleans here in this spot. And plus you got New Orleans off a win too. Like, it's not like there's any urgency here for New Orleans to just come back home off a long road trip, a little bit fatigued, and drill this Washington team. And even if they wanted to, I'm not sure they will. Washington has been very, very feisty lately, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them be feisty again. I'm on the underdog here. Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at Washington too. This is an awful spot for the Pelicans, like you said. 4-game road trip coming back home. Never looks good. I do want to make sure before we place money on this, I do want to make sure Kyle Kuzma plays in this game because they're going to need that offensive production. He is questionable. So yeah, if Kuzma plays, I think getting the plus 13 is really nice. And honestly, here's a little sprinkle for you guys. You could take Washington on the money line and the Nets on the money line. 48-1 odds. Just a little sprinkle. I could see it happening. So I may do a little. I may see what's up with that. But yeah, I'm definitely loving Washington in this spot. But make sure Kuzma plays because I think they're going to need that firepower on offense to stay in this one.
Yeah, they're a very good defensive team, or they can be. New Orleans. They weren't for some reason that Laker game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing from them defensively that night. But for the most part, they've been good defensively lately. Zion's a game time decision too on the New Orleans side, but that's every fucking game with him. Yeah. And Kuzma, of course, game time decision. I'd probably still be willing to take Washington without Kuzma, but definitely with him in the lineup would be even better. All right, San Antonio, Dallas here, the old in-state Texas battle here with the Spurs and the Mavs. We've got the San Antonio Spurs here, right around, Dallas rather, 11-point home favorites, 242.5 the total. This point spread feels just a little bit too tall as well. I mean, Dallas didn't cover double digits last time against Washington. I'm not so sure they'll cover double digits here this time either. The Spurs. I think they want to. They care about this game intently, simply because you're playing, an in-state team. Not that Dallas isn't, but Dallas hasn't always been that kind of team that is double-digit chalk. We can rely on them night in and night out. Now they have absolutely rolled San Antonio twice this year. That would concern me a little bit. Although the first meeting was only by 7. In San Antonio, but the game in Dallas was 25-point victory for the Mavericks. But I'm going back and I'm looking at their season log this year, and as double-digit favorites, I'm going all the way back to the start of the season. I've got them at, I believe, 2-3 against the spread this season as double-digit favorites. So not exactly a winning proposition. Now it's a small sample size, but I think when you look at this spot here, and San Antonio, Toronto's not very good, but it was still a very dominant, impressive effort against the Raptors the other night. I'm going to grab a little San Antonio here. It's not my favorite bet on the board, but I think with Dallas, I'm having a hard time trusting them right now. Right before the break, too, like Luka, Kyrie, all these guys getting ready for the All-Star break. I'm not so sure they're going to be able to win this game by the kind of margin that is required. I like the over, too. I think we'll see some points. What do you think here, Brad?
Yeah, see, I actually like the Mavs in this spot a lot. The Spurs are coming off that win against Toronto, which they did look a little good, but I feel like that's a letdown spot. I think they were happy with that spot, or with that win. Victor's all over Twitter getting those blocks and stuff. They may come into this one a little happy. Whereas when you look at the times in their last couple games, they were big underdogs. Like when they played the Magic, they're 10-point underdogs. They lost that game by 16. When they played the Cavs, they were 10.5-point underdogs. They lost that game by 16 as well. So, in these spots where the Spurs are big underdogs, we've seen them get blown out. And yeah, I just think Dallas at home, they're on the spread, they're not as great. But when it comes to winning games, I think they're on like a 6-game, 5-game winning streak or something like that. So I think they're able to carry that momentum. And I think the Spurs, they're not really playing for much. Other than that Raptors game, if you look back, they've been pretty damn bad. So yeah, I'm going to take my chances with the Mavs at home. I think they could get a double-digit win here.
All right, a team that let me down last night, back in action tonight, the Detroit Pistons. Happened to them last night against the Lakers. Not a good performance. Now they got to play an even better team here, the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix 13-point home favorites, 237.5 the total in this game. I'd certainly I like points in this game. I know they're betting it under, and it's probably lineup related because Cade Cunningham has been downgraded to actually, no, he's going to play. There was concern they might rest him tonight, left knee injury management, but no, They say he's probable, so that's good for Detroit. They need all the offense they can get. Bradley Beal injured last night in a great game, by the way, them in Sacramento last night. That was a hell of a game. Phoenix pulls it out. I had Phoenix minus the points, just squeaked it out, and team total over and full game over with that
Nice.
Suns and Kings game. So that was a terrific result for me last night with that. But no Beal tonight. Frank Vogel obviously saying he'll miss this game with the hamstring injury. It's apparently it is serious though. So they're definitely, it's not just back to back, but the break here, you don't want to put him in this kind of situation. But obviously, this is the one team that's still got plenty of offensive weapons without Bradley Beal. When you talk about Eric Gordon and you talk about Grayson Allen, and of course the big two of KD and Booker. Not to mention Yusuf Nurkic, who's really played well in that starting center spot lately for the Phoenix Suns. So I don't know. It's tough. I mean, that was a very intense game last night where it was back and forth. Suns had a big lead early. Sacramento had a big lead in the second quarter. Phoenix comes back in the fourth, takes a lead. Sacramento ties it. It had momentum swings and lead changes galore. I don't trust the Suns fully to win by this kind of margin off a game like that. You know what I mean? I think that's a tricky ask. Do I go back to the well with Detroit after losing with them against the Lakers last night? I'd still take Detroit before I take Phoenix here. I don't love it. I like the over, though. I do think we'll see points in this game tonight. What do you think here in this one, Brad? Pistons and Suns.
Yeah, it's tough when both teams are on the back end of a back-to-back. I was actually looking at – I checked the games the next day, pretty early in the night, the day before, and I was like, all right, the Suns are playing the Pistons. I'm going to take the Suns no matter what. You know, Detroit's playing in LA. They're going to come in out of Phoenix. It's a tough spot. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, damn, Phoenix is playing tonight as well. And then I saw how close that game was. So, I mean, it kind of equals out there. I mean, Detroit did have to travel. But, yeah, that game was super competitive in Phoenix last night. Those boys were playing hard. I'll take my chances with Detroit getting this many points. You know, we've seen Detroit be able to cover spreads as of late, 7-3 ATS in their last 10. Yeah, same with you. I mean, this number right here is way too big for a Suns team. You know, the Suns, they look good in certain runs and things like that, but when you look at their full game body of works, I don't know. I feel like they should be a little bit better with the roster they have. So I'm going to take the Pistons plus the points here as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at this here right now, too, it's worth noting when Detroit played in Phoenix last season, just the one time, 12-point dogs, they lost only by 6 in that game. It was 108-102. I think something similar tonight. I just can't envision after a game like that against Sacramento, another team you're battling with in the Western Conference, final game before the break, no Beal tonight, that you're going to really exert the kind of effort you need to be able to win by this kind of margin. And if you're Detroit, I think you got to come out strong after what you did last night, which was just and it's been uncharacteristic of Detroit. Detroit's been competitive lately until last night. So I think there's reasons to like Detroit here, getting all these points. All right, Sacramento, Denver, Nuggets, 5-point home favorites, 228.5 the total in this game. When you look at the Denver side of the equation, Jamal Murray, from what I read earlier, he's already been ruled out. Michael Malone saying he won't play, tibia injury, just being careful right before the All-Star break. It looks like KCP a game-time decision for Sacramento. It's worth noting, I don't see anyone resting after just an incredible game last night that they were unfortunately on the losing end of against Phoenix. But Fox, Werder, Barnes, Murray, and Sabonis, they're all expected to be in the starting 5 tonight for Sacramento. I mean, I think Sacramento could be live here. I really do. I mean, Denver's got it's got all the makings to me for Denver, the team that's looking to get the All-Star break going. You know, Murray sitting. Now, I don't love the fact that Denver's coming off 2 straight losses at all. That concerns me. They might return home and get the job done here, coming off those 2 losses. But the fact that Malone comes out after a game where they got absolutely crushed by Milwaukee, Brad, he comes out right away and he says Murray's not playing. That's, to me, sowing the seeds of you don't give 2 shits about this game, this final game before the break, when you say something like that right away that, oh, Murray's not playing. And it makes me wonder, is the focus going to be there for Denver even after 2 losses? Because Sacramento looks like they're all in tonight on this game, especially after the tough one that got away last night with everybody resting. And I'm not so sure Denver's as invested in this game as it looks like Sacramento is. So I'm leaning Sacramento. I haven't made a decision if I bet it yet, but I'm kind of leaning dog here. What do you think, Brad?
Damn, fading the Nuggets on the road. Ian is coming out here firing off. I respect that. I can't fade this Nuggets team. coming back home. Or I mean, yeah, fading the Nuggets, this Nuggets team at home is pretty wild. I mean, this team is 21-4 straight up at home. During with the spread, they have been questionable against the spread this season, but after those two losses, laying this number 5 points, I think that's definitely doable against a Sacramento team who played their heart out last night. Fatigue is going to play a factor in my opinion. And even without Jamal Murray, I think these boys are a well-oiled machine, and they should be able to get the win. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think Denver, they're going to be well-rested. This is where they play their best basketball. I think this is a great bounce-back spot for them, and a letdown spot for the Kings.
And Denver can win without Murray. They've done it before.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can do it again. And I'll say this for the people that like Denver, the thing that strengthens your case is you're right. Sacramento's on a back-to-back. They really put everything into last night. You're in the thin air and altitude now in Denver for this game tonight at Ball Arena there in Denver. Not to mention, actually, Sacramento destroyed Denver last week on Friday night, and it was one of those spots where Denver was off the big win against the Lakers. They spoiled Kobe's statue night, and then they went to Sacramento the next night, and Sacramento put it on them in that game. So that could point toward Denver tonight here. A little short turnaround, rapid revenge type of deal here tonight as well. So there's enough angles, I think, when you flesh it out and talk it out more that, I don't know if I'd get there with Sacramento. I don't. Given all the factors. Tricky game. An interesting one. This is one of those games, too, if you're kind of on the fence, watch how it starts and go from there. Live bet might be the best option here with this one. All right, Lakers and the Jazz. Next up, we've got the Jazz 5.5-point home favorites, total of 240.5 in this game. I love two bets in this game. I agree with the move on Utah here. This is a team that sure looks like they're ready to mail it in right before the All-Star break, the Lakers. It sure looks that way to me with what I'm seeing as far as, who's not going to play in this game for them back-to-back in the thin air and altitude, all those old players, and LeBron's already been ruled out for this game. Vanderbilt, Vincent, Reddish are out, and AD, it looks like, is very much iffy, questionable with the Achilles/hip issue. And if he doesn't play, I think it really sets up nicely here for Utah. And these few instances where Utah lately, Brad, they've had these home games where they've been favored against teams that are perceived to be better than Utah. They've been favored against Philly. They've been favored against Milwaukee at home. And in those games, Utah's gotten it done. So when you see Utah laying a number like this at home against, should they really be laying this many against the Lakers? That's the spots Utah's usually been getting it done here in these home favorite spots. So I think the money going against the Lakers, the money coming in on Utah, it makes sense to me. The Lakers on the back-to-back, potentially both LeBron and AD out. LeBron's already out, and there's a good chance AD might be missing too. So I agree with the move to Utah. I like the over too. Should see a lot of points, and if AD doesn't go as well, that's one of the best defensive players the Lakers have. One of the few good defensive players the Lakers have. You're going to see points, and more points, and especially even more so if Anthony Davis is a no-go here tonight. What do you think here, Brad? Lakers, Jazz?
Yep, loving the over there as well. And then yes, Jazz all day. I mean, the Lakers are basically an All-Star break. That's how I'm thinking about this one. I think they are clocked out. They played that game last night in LA, had to travel to Utah in elevation. This is a terrible spot for the Lakers. If LeBron James played, I think it would be a fun and competitive game. Without LeBron, I don't give him much of a shot here. We all know the Jazz. They play their best ball at home, 17-8 straight up at home, and 18-7 ATS at home this season. Terrible spot for the Lakers. Jazz are one of my favorite plays tonight, and I love the over as well. So I'm going to doubt. If I had to place my money on it, I don't think AD plays tonight. But even if he does, I still think the Jazz are a good play here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I say, I think it just sets up really well here for this Jazz team tonight, hosting the LA Lakers. And like I say, if you look at their roster going into this game tonight, it's pretty much fully healthy for them. I mean, they've got George, Sexton, Markkanen, Collins, and Kessler. They're all in right now here tonight for this Utah team. So keep that in mind. So this is definitely a team that's got pretty much everyone available and at their disposal tonight here for this game, taking on the LA Lakers. So going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But again, there's definitely a lot of things that factor in and favor the Utah Jazz here in this game tonight against the LA Lakers. And again, the Lakers too, with a back-to-back spot, a team that's, more of a veteran team. Sometimes teams like that are more apt to just say, you know what, fuck it, when it comes to the final game or so before the All-Star break. And it sure seems like we could see that tonight from the LA Lakers. We got someone in the chat mentioning about enough with Beal injured too much. There's a lot of truth to that. There is. I mean, you just haven't seen Beal, Durant, and Booker together enough. I mean, how do you know what you truly have with this trio when one of them's injured or one of them's, load management most of the time? And that's the issue that's the risk Phoenix had getting Bradley Beal, is that, he just has a lot of injuries the last few years, and he's unable to give you, just a ton of games on the basketball court like he once did. So it's definitely been an issue for the Phoenix Suns. It was an issue for Washington, those last few years when Bradley Beal was there. So there's definitely truth to that. You wonder if he's is he going to be healthy enough in the playoffs? Is he going to get through an entire playoff run healthy and staying on the court for April to June? That is a legitimate question right now for Bradley Beal. All right, next up, it's the final game for this Wednesday card in the NBA. Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. We've got the Warriors now 3.5 point home favorites here in this game. The total currently 236.5, and it's gone up a little bit. I mean, the Warriors, where has this come from? They're all of a sudden on a bit of a roll, a bit of a hot streak. What a win that was for them against the Phoenix Suns on Saturday night. More Steph Curry heroics for what feels like the millionth time with that incredible shot to beat Phoenix on Saturday night. But, don't look now. They're 26-24. This is probably the best stretch of basketball they've played. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread their last 5 games, including some impressive wins at Brooklyn, at Philly, at Indiana. They beat Phoenix at home. They go to Utah, and they just crush the Jazz, who've been good at home this year. So there's a lot to like right now with the Warriors. Curry's on fire. Thompson's starting to percolate, and Kuminga in particular has been a huge boost to the starting lineup with Kuminga. He's been really good for Golden State. Not easy to fade this team. And then you start to look at the Clippers now. No Kawhi Leonard, which is why the money's come in on Golden State. He's already been ruled out. So they're going to have to do it without Kawhi, Harden, Mann, George, Amir Coffey, and Zubats, the starting 5. The problem with betting against the Clippers, too, especially now that they're plus 3.5, is they got absolutely destroyed at home by Minnesota. That was a big-time game in the Western Conference the other night. 2 good teams, and Minnesota rolls in there and dummies the Clippers. I don't think the Clippers took a kind to that. You'd think they bounce back, but without Leonard, it's huge. They take a hit defensively. Obviously, he gives them a lot of points too. But my initial thought was I wanted to back the Clippers here off that loss to Minnesota and think Golden State's going to cool off eventually at some point. But now without Leonard, I don't love it as much, but I'm reluctant to fade the Clippers here, especially as a dog, especially with the loss to Minnesota the other night. So I'm probably going to just stay off the game entirely. But my initial thought was I don't want to fade the Clippers off that Minnesota loss because I would think they want to have a big-time response going into this game. Both teams have been trending under lately, by the way, but we've seen a lot of points in some of these head-to-head games. So even with the total, tough call. I could see it going either way. What do you think here, Brad? Final game, Clippers-Warriors.
Yeah. When I first saw the spread, I was like, Clippers +3. I was like, I'm going to take that all day. And then once I did see that Kawhi was out, I kind of switched my opinion. If Kawhi was playing in this one, I would definitely take the Clippers. But I'm actually going to go with the Warriors. With Kawhi out, I definitely give the edge to the Warriors. And I mean, like you said, they're hot as hell right now. 7-2-1 ATS in their last 10, covering in 5 straight. This team has a lot of momentum right now. Playing in Golden State is never an easy task as well. So with the Clippers losing their star player, I think the Warriors get one more win before the end of All-Star break. Finish the first half of the season with their heads up high, and it should be interesting to see what they do in the second half of the season. You can never count out Curry. It's kind of like Patty Mahomes. They didn't look good in the regular season either, and then next thing you know, they're in the playoffs beating everyone. So I'm kind of interested to see how this Warriors team looks in the second half of the season, and I think they keep that momentum up and get the job done here tonight as well.
All right, Brad, going with the move, the market move here with Golden State here now at -3.5 in this game. Shout out to Ramon Scott absolutely good to see you. Someone that is on another channel that I do some stuff with, Pub Sports Radio. So good to see Ramon in the chat. Yes, this is now this X you're watching on Twitter. I see that M Sizza, but that's all my shows now. The Ice Guys too. We broadcast it right off Twitter. My Twitter, the Ice Guys Hockey Show Twitter as well, and same with all my other content. So if you prefer that to YouTube, that's fine. That's perfectly fine to just watch it on Twitter and X. And yes, this show is Monday and Wednesday right now, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And Brad is the Wednesday guest each and every week. We will have a show next Wednesday. Brad and I will be with you next Wednesday. Even though there's no NBA, there's still plenty of college basketball next Wednesday. So we'll still be on to give you a college basketball show. And speaking of college basketball, that's where we're going to turn to next. We're going to see it's a pretty decent slate tonight in college basketball. Just talk about some games that we like. Normally I go first, but I'm going to let our guest go first this time. Brad, so a few games, just 3, 4, 5, however many you want to mention, games that you're looking at, games that you've bet, games that you like here tonight in college basketball.
Yep, yeah, man. So for this first one, I'm taking Seton Hall at home. I mean, this line, it did move up to 3, which did move up a lot from that 1.5 that it was last night, which is where I got at, but I still like it at this number. Don't get me wrong, Xavier has been good ATS, and Xavier did beat this team by 20 points the last time they played. But now this game is in Seton Hall, and I think this is going to be a tough spot for Xavier. Seton Hall is 10-3 at home this season, straight up, and I think they get some revenge. I've liked how this team has looked recently. They've looked better than they were at the start of the season. So I'll take my chances with Seton Hall. Next, I'll take St. Joe's plus the points here. I think this is a 50-50 game. Loyola Chicago, they've looked decent, but I'm going to take my chances with St. Joe's keeping it close. I could see them honestly in winning that outright. And of course, I mentioned it before, the IU-PU game versus Detroit Mercy. Tough game here. I'm staying square, man. I'm not going to take Detroit Mercy laying these points. I'm taking IU-PU plus the 5.5. So there's a few college basketball plays there.
It's funny. That game has gotten a lot of attention today online as well, because you're seeing a 0-26 team laying 5.5 points, which is, of course, the Detroit Mercy Titans. I kind of think they win. I kind of think they cover. And I also know that they are honoring pregame tonight this color analyst, this longtime legend of the program that just passed away recently. And I think this is their first home game since he passed away. So kind of a heavy heart game for Detroit tonight, and certainly the most beatable team they've played in a very long time. So I just think this could be this, but they are bad. They're atrocious, Detroit. So maybe that's not going to matter. But I think there's a lot of intangibles that set up well for Detroit there in that game tonight against IUPUI. So that's a fascinating one. There's a few I'll throw out there. I kind of like Penn State against Michigan State. I think slight home dog. Michigan State hasn't been great on the road. It's worth noting that they have not. I think Penn State got him last year when they went to Happy Valley. So Penn State, is a small home dog worth a look. It's a high total, but I think VMI and Furman goes over the total. A lot of points there, I think, in that game. What else? I like Greensboro laying the road number against Citadel. I think it's a nice spot for Greensboro to get back on track there in that game. I agree with what Brad said about Seton Hall against Xavier. I think Seton Hall at home, they need this game badly. I think they get it done. I think Oakland, those 2 Horizon League games with Oakland IPF Dub and Milwaukee Cleveland State, I think both of them could go over the total. I like points in there. Green Bay's red hot right now. I've been riding Green Bay a lot lately. I think I'm back on the Phoenix. The Phoenix rises again here tonight against the Norse of Northern Kentucky in that game. Miami Clemson's probably another good over. There should be a lot of points there. What else? Southern Illinois Belmont. Belmont at home, it looks cheap to me. They're a different team at home, the Belmont Bruins. That game also, I think, could see some points in it. I think Bradley absolutely destroys Illinois Chicago tonight. They're off 2 straight losses. They're a good team, but now they're smarting, right? They've lost 2 in a row. They're back home. They're still one of the better teams in the Missouri Valley Conference. So I think the Bradley Braves laying a big number. They probably put a beat down there on Illinois Chicago, UIC in that game. I kind of leaned to where Brad was thinking there with St. Joe. Against Loyola Chicago. What's a good thing if you like St. Joe's in that game? St. Joe's lost as a home favorite to Loyola Chicago in the first meeting this year If you bet them in the revenge situation as a road dog, which is what they are here, so basically it's a home favorite that lost the first game as a home favorite to that team. You play them again later in the season with revenge, which St. Joe's is, and now they're a road underdog. The ATS numbers long term are very good in that angle for the road dog. So it's the road dog that lost the first meeting as a home favorite, Brad. That angle says bet St. Joe's tonight. In a revenge spot, they lost as a home favorite to Loyola earlier this year. Now they're a road dog. That's been a pretty good angle long term across all conferences in college basketball. So I think it's something like 57, 58% long term over the last 10, 15 years. So pretty good sample size. So that says bet St. Joe's here tonight against Loyola Chicago. So did you know that angle or no?
No, I like it though.
But you like it now because you're on that side, yes.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Look, Loyola's playing great, but I also think they have to regress a little bit too. Don't think they're capable of keeping this up night in and night out. So I'd be looking at St. Joseph's there as well in that game. I think Maryland takes care of business against Iowa. I don't trust Iowa on the road. Maryland needs a win badly. So Maryland and the over on any Iowa game, I could only look over. How about this? I'm going to throw this game out at you because it's fascinating to talk about. One of the hottest teams in the country right now is South Carolina. Here they are tonight getting 11.5. They've been on this roll. They've been a point spread machine. Are you riding with the machine that is South Carolina, or are you riding with the home machine that is Auburn? Because Auburn has destroyed every single team that they have played at home this year. Something's got to give there. It's an interesting game. Great game. Interesting.
Yeah, that line is disrespectful, though. I mean, look, I think Auburn wins this game, but getting 11.5 points with a 21-3 team. What is it? Their ATS record on the road is 6-1, it looks like. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, 11.5 is way too much. Taking South Carolina there all day.
I could only look at South Carolina there too, but there's something about this that's just it's nauseating. It's like it's Publix heavy on the South Carolina side, and the line's not budging, and Auburn's just been killing teams at home. And you look at every Auburn home game, and they're a good Auburn team. And what really concerns me too for South Carolina is Auburn's off a loss. They got ripped by Florida over the weekend on the road, and now they're back home. They may want to kick some ass here tonight against South Carolina. But I will not bet against South Carolina, though. There's no way. I've been on this team a bunch. Lamont Paris, I think, has done one of the great coaching jobs this year in college basketball. They've gotten better and better and better, as the season went along. I know Auburn's been just putting a whipping on teams at home, but I mean, South Carolina's been too good to me. I've had this team as a bet for, 4 or 5 games now the last month. I won't go against them. That's for sure. I think Arkansas might be a sneaky home dog. This is that time of year where Musselman, the Muss Bus, he starts to turn it up, right? They haven't had a great season, but he always seems to have these teams playing better late in the year. February and into March is when Arkansas is always peaking and playing their best under this coach. So, and I don't trust Tennessee on the road. Look, they just lost at Texas A&M over the weekend on the road. So I think Arkansas could hang it. Bud Walton Arena is a tough place to play as well. Don't sleep on that venue. It's not an easy place to go into and win. So I think Arkansas getting 8.5 there might be worth a look. I can't lay 7 with Arizona State. That's Oregon State or nothing for me in that game.
I'm off Arizona State. Never taking them again. They've lost me. I don't think they've won me a bet this season. They always look good. It's like, oh, this is a good spot for Arizona State. Hell no. Never bet them.
I would leave Wyoming. Wyoming at home. Yeah, Arizona. Yeah, Oregon State's pretty bad, but I'd still take them in a heartbeat before I lay 7 with Arizona State. Wyoming might be worth a look too against Utah State, just because I think Wyoming, that's still a tough place to win. I remember they beat Colorado State at home, and I know Utah State's a good team, but laying 8 in that venue, Wyoming is just one of those teams. You don't trust them on the road, but you can take them at home. Yeah. At Wyoming, they've been good there.
You know what's odd? It's like the places that are tough to play in college basketball are also tough to play in football as well. Like Wyoming's never an easy place to play in football. Like Utah is a tough place to play in basketball and football. It's weird. It probably is like elevation though. No.
Yeah, that's about it for me. There you go. I basically went through the whole card with some kind of opinion on every game, but there you go. That's the Wednesday college basketball slate. Great stuff. We always thank Brad Francis for joining us here on Bet with Bobano every Wednesday. But, of course, as always, before we wrap up the show, it's time for a best bet in the NBA. Brad, what are you going with for best bet tonight?
Yes, sir. We're going with the Denver Nuggets. Look, the Kings played their hearts out last night. They took a bad loss. Now they're about to go to Denver at elevation, playing the best home team in the league. This is a bad spot for the Kings with or without Jamal Murray, I think we see the Nuggets come in here and revenge that terrible loss they took in Sacramento. So give me the Nuggets laying the points.
All right, there you go. Denver Nuggets -5 against Sacramento. Best bet for Brad Francis. I'm going to give you two NBA best bets for tonight because I can't choose between them. I'm going to go with the Lakers Jazz over 240.5 as one of my best bets, and the other is going to be Cleveland -9 against Chicago. I think it's just a great situation for Cleveland. They lost to Philly at home. Donovan Mitchell saying, hey, our effort wasn't good enough. I expect the effort to be plenty good enough tonight for the Cleveland Cavaliers in bounce-back mode. So there you go. Two best bets, Lakers Jazz over, Cavs -9 for best bets here in the NBA for this night before, second to last night before the All-Star break. Great stuff. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out. Again, you can follow Brad's work at Brad Wins Bets, Instagram and Twitter, X. And of course, we'll be back next week for more editions of the show. For Brad Francis, I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the games and good luck. Have a great Wednesday night. As always, bet like Tony Soprano, bet with Bobano, and we will see you again